When I say anime tournament arc, what do you think of? The Hunter exam? The Grand Magic Games, perhaps? Well, you would be wrong, because the correct answer is Tenkaichi Budokai, and you would know that if you looked at the thumbnail, donut. The 21st, 22nd, and 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai from Dragon Ball are absolutely genius. And I don't think that's a controversial opinion. I often hear people say that Toriyama invented the tournament arc, whereas Togashi was the one who ultimately perfected it. And while I agree that the Dark Tournament is an incredible triumph in the realm of storytelling, I think some of these fellow weeps might have missed the memo here. Yes, Toriyama effectively invented the tournament trope as it's known and applied to this day, but in doing so, he also perfected it. That's right, even from its conception, the art of the tournament arc had already been mastered from the very beginning by its own creator. All this time, the flawlessness of these tournaments has remained woefully unsung in the anime and manga community, and dang it all to heck if I'm going to let that continue. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the gripping, the immaculate, and the brilliantly thematic trio of tournaments that would define and inspire a myriad of legendary sagas to come from the battle shonen genre. This is the strongest under the heavens. The first we hear about this tournament is through the infinite, the finite wisdom of Muten Roshi, in the interest of giving his two-star pupils Son Goku and Krillin some extra motivation for their training under the Turtle School. And motivate them it did. By the end of their training, Goku and Krillin had become so much stronger that it was almost unbelievable. That was when they realized, nothing's unbelievable, only improbable. It's a good thing there wasn't going to be a written test like in the tuning exams, by the way. Let's just say that their physical growth was the relevant component of their training gains. I'm not entirely convinced that 13-year-old Krillin can do long division. So this is when you might wonder, wait a second. Isn't Roshi supposed to be like the head honcho of martial arts teachers? If Goku and Krillin trained under him for this long, how is Toriyama going to justify the existence of fighters at this tournament that are just as strong as they are? Well, here's the thing. He doesn't. And that's okay. In fact, the story is all the better for it. Let me explain. When I say there's no one at the tournament as strong as Goku and Krillin, I don't mean to say that everyone else is a pushover. If that were the case, it would be a rather boring affair. In fact, as most of you likely know, there's someone even stronger. And that someone is Muten Roshi himself, disguised as a tournament participant under the alias Jackie Chun. This is where the overarching motif of the Tenkaichi Budokai originates. Roshi is a lot of things, but dumb is not one of them. He knows exactly how dangerous his students have become as talented martial artists, and he knows that there's probably not going to be anyone strong enough to take them down at this tournament, unless that bastard Shen and his students show their ugly mugs. So he decides to take matters into his own hands to make sure that they don't just bulldoze their way through the competition and win it all on their first try. This is all part of the lesson that Roshi is trying to teach them. There is always someone stronger. You see, Roshi fears that Goku and Krillin are young and hot-headed enough that if either of them won this thing, it would go straight to their head and they would lose what drove them to be better. That's why Jackie Chun will do everything in his power to stop his students from becoming world champion. And when I say everything in his power, I mean everything. But before we get to the main event, allow me to quickly synopsize all of the wonderful fights that led to this final matchup. This fourth wall break sure is on the nose. Poor Yamcha. I hope this doesn't become a pattern. How did she make it this far? Girin sounds a lot like Jiren. And somehow he's a better villain. The master overcomes the student. Why is this the one that made it to the video game? Final round. Jackie Chun versus Son Goku. Wow, they really pulled out all the stops for this one. The amount of twists and turns in this fight is just astounding, and I honestly can't praise it enough. It is truly one of the undeniable gems in the original material. Of course, in order for this whole "there's always someone better than you" shtick to work, Goku is unfortunately going to have to lose this fight. But Toriyama still made it an incredibly epic conflict with high tension and stakes, the likes of which has not been seen in the series yet. As the kids say, he didn't have to go that hard. I would like to append the fact that Thunder Shock Surprise is the greatest technique name in the franchise. Ironically, of course. That distinction goes to Full Power Energy Blast Volley Barrage. So Toriyama could have just stopped after this one. And I know it sounds kind of silly to say that now that we have the hindsight of how this tournament develops in the series, but by all intents and purposes, this is a full and self-sustaining story arc, complete with an introduction, rising action, a climax, and a moral. But Toriyama didn't stop after this one. and that was the best decision he could have made. The 21st Tenkaichi Budokai was only the first of 3 epic tournaments to come. And for the second installment of this trilogy, Toriyama decides to implement yet another device that would be universally emulated in a pantheon of other anime for years to come. A time skip. 3 years after the momentous defeat of the Red Ribbon Army at the hands of Son Goku, the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai begins. And the competition this time around is like nothing the world has ever seen. You see, the reason time skips are effective is because of the characters in the story and how they've changed. Goku and Krillin are so much stronger that even though they look basically the same, they're almost unrecognizable. And Yamcha got a sick new haircut! But by far the most interesting development thrown into the mix for this tournament is the involvement of the 2 star pupils from the Crane School, Ten Shinhan and Chaozu. Now, I have a feeling that many others have shared the same curiosity ever since Roshi referred to his training discipline as the Turtle School, the implication of which begs the question, what are the other schools? How do their methods differ from Roshi's training? Well, it turns out that they differ quite significantly, as illustrated by the Crane Master himself, Tsuru Sennin. This menace of a martial arts teacher is conniving, brutal, malevolent, and man, I want to punch him. Not surprisingly, his students are just as unsympathetic as he is. Ten Shinhan is monstrous and intimidating as all get out, and he's got 3 eyes. Whenever I read this arc, I wish I had 3 legs so I could kick him in both of his shins at the same time. Oh, Yamcha, it's becoming a pattern. And don't even get me started on this little shit. This pint-sized bastard can telekinesis-size people. How is that fair? Luckily, he can't add, so... Good stuff. Before I get into the semifinals, I'd like to quickly mention this charming little deep cut of a scuffle between Jackie Chun and a character named Man-Wolf. First of all, Man-Wolf? Alright, DC, just because you outsourced one of your D-list superheroes to a Japanese mangaka doesn't mean we won't notice it. In all seriousness, I love the fact that Roshi actually has to face the consequences of, obliterating the Earth's natural satellite. This is definitely among Toriyama's best gags in my opinion. Semi-final round. Ten Shinhan versus Jackie Chun. So, in the grand scheme of things, this is one of the lesser-known skirmishes in the series, but this fight could not be more important when it comes to the thematic development of these tournaments. Trust me when I say that this one exchange irrevocably recontextualizes the entire motivation behind the Tenkaichi Budokai as we know it. If we take a moment to recall the previous tournament, I think one of the reasons the final match is so tense is because the audience doesn't necessarily have a clear side to root for. Sure, it's natural to root for Goku because, well, he's the main character and we want to see him succeed after all the work we saw him put into the training for this thing. But deep down, I think we all knew that it was probably for the best that he lose this fight to Roshi. If Goku won, then where else is there to go after you've reached the top of the mountain? Short of flying. But here's the thing. We didn't know Goku then as well as we know him now. And neither did Roshi. Ever since then, Goku has saved people's lives, defeated the most dangerous assassin in the world, and single-handedly taken down the most powerful military syndicate on the planet. And yeah, he might not have won the last tournament, but he was 1 syllable away for Christ's sake. By now, Roshi has realized that Goku's motivation for getting stronger is not extrinsic, but rather intrinsic. Goku wants to get better because he wants to get better. He improves for improvement's sake, and that is what makes a legend. If he ever happened to become the strongest under the heavens, he would still train just as hard as if he'd lost in the preliminaries, because just like Roshi himself said, there's always someone stronger, which is a concept that's been taken to an absurd degree in the contemporary material, but hey, let's not talk about Super. I'd like my BPM to stay under 160 today. With all of that said, after a valiant effort, Jackie Chun decides to hang up the gi and surrender to Ten Shinhan, knowing full well that he and Goku are the future of martial arts. So now that we can trust Goku not to get full of himself after he wins this thing, we're all set to root for the monkey boy in orange. And boy does he deliver in these next 2 fights. His match with Krillin is incredible, and you know what I mean if you've seen it, but the final match versus Ten Shinhan is truly a battle to behold. Toriyama has even gone on record to say that this is his favorite fight in the entire series. Not sure if that's still the case. Knowing how much of his own material he regularly forgets, his actual favorite fight is probably something else that happened in this arc. Nonetheless, this fight is nothing short of spectacular, because now there's no remorse for rooting for Goku. We can all in good conscience root for our lovable main character with all our hearts, and see him finally become the world champion.
It's over, folks! Goku lost his advantage when he collided with the delivery truck, sending him bouncing collapsing to the pavement a split second before Tien. Our new tournament champion is Tien Shinhan.
Goku lost. Again. But this time's different. There's no moral, no lesson in this defeat. Only the bitter taste of failure. This, my friends, is the classic sophomore slump effect of a trilogy. We can see this device in Empire Strikes Back, for example, where Luke is at his lowest point and questioning everything in his life after he heard that, yes, Vader is the father. Having the protagonist dramatically fail in the second act of a 3-act structure is a literary device as old as Windows 95, at least, and it's certainly an effective way to set up these 3 tournaments as a macrocosm of said structure. Now, we know that the 3rd tournament is set to be the ultimate showdown. The 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai will be the one that makes or breaks Goku's dreams of becoming champion. And man oh man, does it completely surpass that expectation. After yet another 3-year time skip, Goku is revealed to be a full-grown adult now, and the final World Martial Arts Tournament of the trilogy is set to commence. This is the one we've been waiting for. This is the big one. This is the greatest story arc in Dragon Ball. Yep, I said it. Go ahead and leave a dislike. It'll be the most engagement I've had in the last half-decade. I am not exaggerating when I say that there is not a single speck of wasted motion in this entire tournament. Every interaction, every fight, every piece of dialogue is a clinically placed cog in the wheel that is this story arc. If you read the manga, each and every match in this tournament is an absolute banger, and you really get the feeling that the 8 quarterfinalists that make it to the main stage are truly the 8 strongest warriors in the world. Which, as much as I love them, is not something I can say about the last 2 tournaments. Seriously, who the hell is Pomput? Regardless, I think it's about high time that we take a look at each of these matches one by one and see what makes them tick. Quarterfinal match number 1. Ten Shinhan versus Tao Pai Pai. Tao is back, baby, and he's a cyborg now. Alright, calm down, Dragon Ball theorists. You should go feel the sun's warmth. Man, this is such a satisfying beatdown. Not to mention the Super Dodonpa, which is like the regular Dodonpa, but thicker. And if you were like me and any other kid in America who watched Z first, we finally get to see where Ten Shinhan got his chest scar. Huh. Quarterfinal match number 2. Anonymous versus Son Goku. This is Chi-Chi at her best, and it is absolutely adorable. I honestly think that if Z hadn't ruined it for me, I would have been scratching my head trying to figure out who this chick really was. I'm surprised Toriyama remembered her. Quarterfinal match number 3. Krillin versus Demon Jr. This is Krillin's shining moment, and I am here for every second of it. I'm so glad that Krillin wasn't just a disrespected ragdoll in this fight to show off how powerful Piccolo is. This match really lets Krillin showcase how much of a competent tactician he is, and as sad as it is to say, I feel like this is Krillin's swan song in many ways. Sure, Krillin continued to be a critical player well into Z, but unless you count killing 3 Cybermen and cutting off Frieza's tail, this really is his last moment in the spotlight to thoroughly illustrate his martial arts prowess. Quarterfinal match number 4. Yamcha versus Shen. Oh, Yamcha. It became a pattern. Semi-final match number 1. Ten Shinhan versus Son Goku. You like Rock Lee taking off his weights? Well, this is the inspiration, folks. This is such a good fight, as one-sided as it may be. Even though the gap in power is so vast, it doesn't feel trivial because Toriyama is so good at being able to make any conflict interesting. As the only rematch in these tournaments, it does an incredible job displaying how terrifyingly powerful Goku has become after training with the big man upstairs. Speaking of... Semi-final match number 2. Demon Jr. versus Shen. The clash between 2 halves of the same primordial being, each side asserting their divine conviction to annihilate the other. What a fantastic setup. It still gives me chills every time they speak to each other in their native tongue. But, in the end, it turns out that not even God can thwart this monster's domination. But if Kami can't, then who will? Final match. Son Goku versus Demon Jr. What a classic. Interestingly enough, this battle would serve as the prototype for the legendary clash between Goku and Vegeta. And this becomes more and more obvious once you realize how many similarities there are. Piccolo turns into a giant, Vegeta turns into a giant. Piccolo does a big explosive wave near the end, Vegeta does a big explosive wave near the end. Not to mention the beam clash, featuring the Super Kamehameha, which is like the regular Kamehameha, but thicker. Overall, let's just say that there's a reason why this fight has gone down as one of the best battles in the entire franchise. And hey, Goku finally gets to become the world champion! You have got to be kidding me. I can't believe it! This is the last one in the trilogy! He was supposed to win! And yet, there he is. A broken husk of a man. Unable to move his limbs. Sitting ducks under the oncoming blast of the spawn of the Demon King. Where else is there to go after you've reached the top of the mountain? Short of flying. Short of flying. 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 Short of flying.
Do it, Goku! I told you I'd win!
The fact that Goku is more excited about winning the tournament than saving the world from an existential threat tells you everything you need to know about his character. There could not have possibly been a better ending to this wonderful arc. And there could not have been a better tournament to cap off this perfect trilogy of contests. So, what do you think? Make sure to let me know in the comments which of the 3 Tenkaichi Budokai is your favorite, and why is the 23rd one? Jokes aside, these tournaments are what made me fall in love with tournament arcs in the first place, and they are absolute masterclasses in their own right on how to make a story all about punching and kicking some of the most captivating and effective storytelling imaginable. So, kudos Toriyama. Not only did you save your own series from commercial failure, but you also created one of the most beloved tropes of the shonen genre and inspired so many amazing tournaments in the future of the anime and manga industry. My fellow internet voyagers, a cheers to the thematic genius of Tenkaichi Budokai.